Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Research Roadshow, and it's time for another episode of Protecting the Nest. Good morning, Carol. Good morning, Tara. Good morning, Amber.
Good morning,
Good
John.
morning.
It's another beautiful day here in Georgia.
Beautiful, happy summer, everybody. Very
Yeah.
exciting. The favorite season has arrived.
I have sleeveless, so that means it's warm. Hip, hip,
Ooh,
hooray.
what's your
I love
temperature?
that.
What's your temperature up there, Carol?
Well, it's morning. It's probably into the 70s. It was getting close to 90 yesterday, but not 90. So it's very comfortable and lovely. I love that temperature.
Well,
80s.
my kids last night after McDuff and they got home because I sent them out to do batting cages and basketball so that I could have quiet. But when they got back, they asked, what was it? Oh, McDuff. Who was on there? I said Tara and Carol, and they go, Mom, where does Carol live? I said, oh, let's play Oregon Trail. And we'll take it all the way from where we are. And they're like, because they know that game, we have a handheld one. And they always, don't buy the proper medicine or their wagon wheel busts or whatever. But they understood immediately all the way across, up and across. And so it's really funny. They're like, oh, okay, Oregon Trail.
Yeah. I love the Oregon Trail. That, when I was in school, it was the verge of computers. You were the same time, Amber. And I remember, and I think it was third grade, we got to play Oregon Trail and a little computer. And it stuck with me as one of the
funniest things. So that was our first social media, or for me, because we would be in typing class, in computer class, and there was rows. And if we completed our work, we did good, we passed our thing, we got enough typed words in, and then we filled out our quiz. However much time was left in the class, we got to play Oregon Trail. And then there was a scorecard that for that class, and then you would put a comment like, oh, I'm beating you, or oh, you suck. And then we'd get in trouble for putting you suck. So there were a lot of rules. We were getting censored already for talking smack to each other on the little chat on Oregon Trail. And then at the end of the week, the teacher would announce who's doing the best on Oregon Trail, and people would stand up and go, suck it, and then we'd get in trouble again. But, this was so much fun, but it was our first experience of digitally doing something, all being together, and then communicating winners and losers. And then someone would go, my wagon wheel, and that would be and then the teacher, shh, people are still taking their quiz, or shh, people are still working on their typing. So it was a lot of fun. And when people say social media, I'm like, yeah, I remember my first experience with that. That was Oregon Trail.
Well, not to mention learning a very basic old-fashioned skill. And of course, Carol came up over there. And so maybe some of your family were the original pioneers busting their way out there.
No, my dad got here after World War II, and my mom got here probably around the Depression. So they're neither one of them. But I live very close to the end of the Oregon Trail, and there's this little, visitor center, and there's a giant Conestoga wagon, and you go in, and there's, it has videos and displays about what people took with them, and reading people's diaries that had gone on there. So, and they have a big sort of Chautauqua pageant every year where they're singing and the oxen and everybody comes.
Carol, I'll tell you,
that's
in
fun.
Computer class, I lost count of how many people got dysentery and died on that Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
It was one of the main, or they froze, or one of their oxen died, and they had to choose between medicine or pulling the wagon themselves. And I mean, that was some hard living, but the dysentery, there was no coming back from that. Or the amputation. Yeah. Remember the amputations you would get? Oh, you'd have to give someone alcohol, so they would get amputated because they got gangrene. That was on the Oregon Trail.
Well, I never played that game, but I did read The Little House on the Prairie by Laura Ingalls Wilder, and that's a whole series of books of what it was like as a pioneer. But the stories that I remember are like people throwing their little piano over the cliff because it wouldn't go up the hill. They had to jettison a lot of their beloved things, and people died, buried them on the side of the trail. Yeah, it was quite an ordeal. And it was reconstituted. A bunch of people, I think at the 150th birthday, a bunch of people, my neighbors, people I knew, dressed up, went to Missouri, took a section of the trail with all the stuff they used, and retraced the steps.
That is so cool. Do you know how much fun that would be to spend the summer actually physically doing the work? I mean, I wouldn't want the dysentery or the gangrene or the broken wagon wheel or the oxen or the frozen tundra weather, but I would love to do the Oregon Trail without all that.
Well, they didn't do all of it. They just took sections.
In our DNA, everything that our ancestors learned, we have access.
Yeah, people had to solve problems on the fly with very little help from their environment. So, and that's what we do too when we're camping out as ospreys. We have to figure out how to cook without water and how to make things work, and how to understand how to take apart problems and put together solutions.
Oh, Carol, so this is really funny. This is hilarious. So we were on the campground, and I'm walking to find my kids, and I run into Deborah, and she's going to the bathroom. She says, well, it looks like they used 12 bottles of water to boil the pasta. And I said, what? And she said, they could have just used the potable water, boiled it, and then you can boil it in that, but they used the bottled waters, and now I'm going to have to go get more bottled waters. And I just thought, we're roughing it.
Yeah, right.
But she was like, okay, all the bottled waters are gone because they boiled noodles for the peanut delicious. But yeah, it was great.
And Deborah's so good like that on kitchen and making sure that like all the planned meals and that there's the right amount ready. Like she's got some skills.
Well, I have to admit, my camping skills are pretty rusty. It's been a long time, so it was really fun. Actually,
we love it, and we're going to Cumberland Island later before school starts back up, which is awesome. It's really cheap. No one even knows really about it. You drive down to St. Mary's in Savannah. You get on a ferry that's $20. You ride it over to the island. You have all your camping stuff. They give you a cart. You pull it to your little campsite. What's cool is they have like a whole shower area that is heated. You wash your dishes and you charge your technology. And then they have like these wires where you hang your clothes out to dry. And then they have like a little washboard area where you physically wash your clothes that you've taken to the beach. But you go to your campsite, they have a picnic table. They have one of those pantries up on a pole to keep the raccoons and stuff out where you lock it, you put your food in it. They have the tent area. Over every tent is an orange tree. No joke. They did it where that's your area where they've cleaned it and made it flat for you to set your tent. And then they have the big fire pit with the grill on top already ready. And then they set a few pieces of wood, and then they tell you where to go to scavenge for wood or to go to the main house to purchase some wood. And then you literally walk less than a quarter, like half of a quarter of a football field, and you're on the beach. And as you sit on the beach, you'll see wild horses and deer walking down the beach. And then you walk, and if you keep following the beach, you hit the old jetty. And this is where Robert Kennedy Jr. or John F. Kennedy Jr. and Caroline Bassett came for their honeymoon. It's where the first African-American church, right where the campsite is right there. They still have the original podium, the original benches from the original people who lived on the island. And the Black Americans, that was their first church and the first church on that island. But everyone threw a fit and lobbied and tried to get them to not build a resort. It's at the very end of the island because there's two separate types of camping. You do where it's all set up, more family, and then they have the one where you go and you pick up your little hatchet thing and you go and you clear an area and you rough it. You go into the rough, and it's called the rough. And there's a lot of campers that will go into the rough to sleep, and they do it. And then they build their own fire and they do this, but there's regulations they have to follow, and they have to have certain licenses to do it. but a lot of people do that as well. But it is such a cool place and so inexpensive.
That's
like
so
a whole
great.
vacation's less than $200.
Yeah, I have to
Wow.
admit that I loved not having technology. At first, I was really upset and I missed it, but actually, it was like some sort of cleanse to just have a week where you didn't have to. All we could do is text, if there was anything. But even that, it was, not even working half the time. So you just kind of said, okay, we'll just wait, and it felt great actually not to have to be checking that all the time and concentrating on all the videos. We get a lot from it and a lot of being together, I think, when we're so far away, but it's nice to get away.
Unplug for a while, why
Yeah.
not? You gotta plug into nature and just.
I think nobody would have complained except we were researching.
Mhm.
And then we're looking up things, but we're on a campsite. You can't do it. So we'd have to do it in town. And I don't think anybody would have even had an issue with no technology, except we all wanted to answer that question. Like, oh,
Right.
who was this person connected to? Where do they used to work? And then we go, it's like, oh, yeah, never mind. I'll text. Can't do it now. No internet. We can do it tomorrow at the restaurant. And then
Right.
We're
do it at lunch.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's
the
an
other
important tool, just like anything. It's good to have it, but it's a good to test yourself to be innovative and what you do without it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a great fire pit. I loved that fire pit, but we didn't have instruments. But I sort of regret there were singers. There was you and George and other people. We could have done rhythm.
We didn't
and
sing. Nobody
Yeah,
sang.
that was really sad because that's.
Well, I'll hold you guys to the singing when I get together with you.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love hearing Tara sing.
That's the best. Just doing music together. I think that is
Exactly.
such a connective thing. I don't have the link, but I saw this really great thing last night on how music, it was a big research study, how music affects everything in our body and, how it resonates and how important it is to have. And I think it's not just the digital stuff, but the analog, real, genuine experience
Yes.
of live music we crave that, and we just have gotten away. It's sad.
One thing I'm like, I'm like a music Nazi. If you're sitting around a fire pit, everybody better join in. I don't care if you're clapping your knees.
Mhm.
I don't care if you're humming. I don't care if you're swaying and going doo wop do. I don't care. But you're not going to sit there because we need everyone being in motion, everyone part of it. And of course, there's the really talented singers and the people who really know how to play an instrument. That's necessary to keep that mood going. But if people are just sitting there, it causes too much concentration or energy to their eyes, like just kind of flow over to the person that's just very stationary. And it causes the flow to be like
a performance
versus
a performance versus like a group activity.
And if you're sitting around a fire pit, that's definitely group. You didn't pay a ticket to go in to see a show. And so I remember I'm really drum circles. Don't ever get me near one because I won't ever leave. It'll drive everyone out. It's time to go. No, we're going to do something else. No, let's do a drum circle. So I'm really addicted to those. But have you ever gone and you're sitting there and there's like two people sitting in front of a drum and they're not doing anything? And it's like, and it's like, we need this continuous flow because you're in a circle. So it impedes that flow when someone's just sitting there. It's like you hit a speed bump, boom, and it's, so I get really authoritarian about, everybody join in. Come on. And I'll tap on their shoulders, dance around, come on. So,
you sound like the Portuguese family. They're passing out the sheet music. Sing.
Yeah. Could be.
There we go.
Yes.
Excellent. And the drums feel and sound so good. The bass.
You notice nobody was sitting still. You notice nobody was in the circle. Let's just twiddling their thumbs or just watching everybody. Get out of the circle. Yeah. If you're in the circle, you better play. You better do something.
And drums are so good for babies too. The drums and the rattles,
Yeah, and just tones. I used to ohm when Silas was really little, and he would just key in on that. It's a wonderful thing for little kids.
When we were thinking about names for the kids, our firstborn, I was like, I prayed and I said, I really want him to have courage, but then also, and that's why we named him Caleb. But then for the middle name, I was like, I need him to have rhythm. He's got to have rhythm. So we did cadence. And I'll tell you what, as a baby, I got all the little baby music instruments that come in the little drum bucket, and you lift the lid and you pull out. And I kid you not, he grabbed them as when he was little. And if I turn on music, he would be on the beat. And I was like, thank you. Yeah. That's exactly. Oh, that's amazing. Because that was a big thing. And to this day, he hears music in his head. Like he's just like,
that's great.
Jam out. And so I was very pleased.
Yeah, I have drums around the house, and Silas and I pound on those, or anything, our legs, whatever. He's really got a lot of rhythm for a little guy. So
cool. Isn't it cute when you watch a little kid really get into and they really shake, and they're super cute. They're still innocent. Yeah. So everything they do is just amazing. It's not like, when we get old and bitter. Yeah, we're cute and all. We're cute and all, but nothing like a little sweetheart.
Hi there.
Nothing like a little sweetheart.
That's right.
Yeah, and you know what? This reminds me. One time I was posing for an art class, I think in Newton, and the teacher was she would always play music for the students when they were doing the art, but it was like you had to get into the same position as you started the last time. And so it was weird to me because you guys know I can't sit still, right? So as I'm stilly posing, the coolest thing, I could feel my cells vibrating and dancing from the music, even though I couldn't move.
Oh, that's very cool.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
But we do feel it within our whole body, everything. We're water, and it vibrates.
And seriously, that's why I do for myself, if there is a song, a show, whatever, that is not making you feel good, that's one click away. There is so much obnoxious noise that is like pumped out, or just maybe something doesn't speak to you. And I just always say, turn that off.
Absolutely. You can always tell. So some people, they like particular songs or rhythms, and it gives them energy. It meets their personality. It meets their needs at the time. But the worst is when you're around somebody and that meets their need and they seem to be energized, but it's something that drains you. So I always have a pair of earbuds, and so I don't want to have somebody not listen to something that they want to listen to or that they need in the moment. But if it's something that's draining me and I'm not going to be like able to hang with the group, or it's going to be difficult, I'll pop in my earbuds and put something in that my soul needs. That way there's not any kind of depletion. I don't do it if there's conversation or things are super important to talk about. But if someone's just wanting to hear a random song and it makes them like really get in a good mood, but it's something that's it drags me down, or I need maybe some folk music at the time, or maybe I need some classical music, depending on what I need, like to uplift me, because everyone has a different perspective and a different mood and a different hormonal level, everything. So instead of telling someone I'm not in the mood of that, and I say, hey, I'm going to listen to something else, keep that going, fine. And I'm going to listen to a different song, and I think if, as long as you're not with somebody who takes that personally, I think that, that's a good way to energize yourself without telling someone else I don't like that song. Because, sometimes someone likes country music. I don't like today's country music, but sometimes that makes them feel good. And I want to listen to 70s old rock classic, so,
this is important, but because like maybe your son is the same way. You said he hears music. Like with my family, like I don't take it to a degree. But I'm like bossy and rude about it, where I'm like the same thing as you. Like I'll get away from it, but if we're in the car or something, because it's like literally my brain the day after that is going to play it back to me. So I'm like super, you know what I mean? So I know that I am being not that nice, but sometimes I'm like, yes, shark. Thank you.
Yeah. That my kids did ABC, or My Baby Could Read, and they had this one tune. that played. It's like a little music box thing in between each one. It was great for them, but I would hear that music box noise for days and days. And we'd play this video for them every other day. And I could never get it out. So that's when I started being like, I need my earbuds. And then I would let them do that and then put something in. Or, I would just be in that mood, like, turn it off. And it was in my head.
Well, for a little while, I did music together, actually, speaking music together with like little kids and stuff. And it's a great program, but I couldn't hack it because of that reason. The songs just got too much in my head and I couldn't deal with it.
Baby shark, do, 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 do. Are there any songs that Silas is listening to? Carol, are there any songs that Silas is into that you guys are like, okay, that's nice?
Yeah, he loves the song. I can't even sing it. It's about a bulldozer. And he has one about the garbage truck.
It's so cute. Yes. It's so cute, but then it gets stuck in our adult heads. And then we're trying to remember our grocery list. And we're like, it's popping in our head like, oh, get out of there. Like, I really need to remember this list right now.
It is adorable. It's fun.
Did you send links, Carol or Tara? I didn't.
I sent some links. I wanted to talk a little bit about, that we all got together yesterday and got some news that, our dear friend and the first Osprey has some health challenges that we all want to help him with. And so I did want to talk about also that George is talking about the P53 pathway, the gene that will either shut off your immune system to cancer or it will activate it. And Fenbendazole, I was reading more about it. I knew that it had a lot of good stuff. But one of the things was an NIH paper that talks about how it opens up P53. So if it gets shut off from SV40 or stuff that's in the jab that's ends up doing that, well, it'll open it back up again. So that's pretty powerful. And because that SV40 was found to really cause fast-acting cancer, and it was, made more and more active over a lot of years. Carol, and now there's the stuff they're saying. A friend of mine sent me the fact checkers on SV40 where they say, it's not in the jab. And then what she said, the reason it's not in the jab is because everything is synthetic. But what she didn't say is that there's a synthetic version of SV40 that is in there and that has been discovered. So the fact checkers don't do a very good job of fact checking.
Don't. And here's my question, and this is something I've been pondering. So we live in a technological world, and we live in a world with consumption, and most countries we've brought to our level of consumption rather than diminish the consumption. I'm back and forth on that because some things we do need because life has become more difficult as it's become easier. There's just more tools we need and things we need, even though we're not doing a lot with tools. It's a very odd world we're in right now. And so I'm wondering if while we're looking for new energy sources, the energy sources we're finding have a lot of waste. Then they got to figure out how to lose the waste. And then the waste that comes around that they try to get rid of in order to give us better energy is that same waste that adds stuff to our bodies that causes cancer. So they can't really eradicate all the stuff that's going to cause the cancer. So they have to go to the SV40 and all these things that will turn on and off to try to manipulate our body not to become cancerous no matter what toxic things are around us. Because it seems like we're not really trying to eradicate the toxic issue. We're trying to change our body not to accept the toxicity and learn how to drain it out so that we can still have the things that we want and then keep our body where it's not affected by it. And the people who fall in the middle of that experimentation are the ones that are going kaput. That's what I've been kind of measuring. And what do we get rid of and say no more of this? And then what do we do to make sure that whatever is coming in to our environment by invention, by man's deeds, what do we keep? What do we get rid of? And how do we grasp that most of the things we look for antidotes are because of things that we brought into being? And how do we balance that? Because I feel like we're always going to be chasing, this that we brought in that we really need in order for everybody to live comfortably. cause this, and people are getting sick. So now we have to go biologically into the person to change how the person receives it. So then the person won't be hurt by it. And then down the road, this amount of people won't be hurt by it. But in the meantime, all these people be hurt by it while we try to figure it out.
Well, I have two good examples. I think the Fenbendazole, which is a soil bacteria, or it's a macrophage, actually. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. But it actually munches like Pac-Man, the actual cancer cells. But now after reading that paper, what it really does is it activates our immune system. And that's what it's designed to do. As soil bacteria, they're there to help between roots, plants, break down meat that's decomposing, break down the stuff that's dying and put it all in a useful way. So that's why some of those medicines like ivermectin is also a soil bacteria. They're really powerful and can be really helpful. But what you're talking about, the technological stuff, there's also the thing that when I got the SV40, and I nearly died when I was 2 and got the live SV40, and then it came back again because it hides out in your body just like shingles does from chickenpox. The SV40 hides out and then it gives you cancer. So another thing is the thing that helped me get over that cytokine storm, which was knocking everything out, and I think would have probably caused cancer ultimately. But I found a frequency healer and a machine that was a German machine that was able to reverse it. But what I have heard about since, John had Alana Freeman on her show a little bit ago, on his show, and she and I went up to interview Gerald Pollack, the fourth phase of water guy. And he showed us this little machine, or he talked about it, that he used to go to sleep every night. That really helped him by it had sleep frequencies. And Mary Burgess sent me a link to it, and I was reminded of it this morning. She said this might help John because it has cancer anti-frequencies. And so there is technology that can help us as well as simple plant-based, natural things, but there also is technology that can address the vibratory things that can cause problems and can repair them. And I've never had that problem again. I haven't had that cytokine storm where I'm allergic to everything and my immune system's going down and I just don't know what's going to happen next. It was one time.
I just knocked on wood.
So anyway, there's this is a little thing you wear on your wrist, and you just when you need it, and it has access to cancellation frequencies of some of the main things that really cause people problems. So that's another. It costs $500. It's not cheap, but hopefully the price will come down.
Exactly, and it's like health is priceless. Mm-hmm. So this is. So you have the link for that too, Carol?
Yeah, I gave it to John. I sent it in the second email. Can you show it? It's
yeah, I'm going to play that right now.
Yeah, it's a little less than 2-minute video. It's called a Wave Watch.
Here we go. Yeah, I found this pretty fascinating. I don't know if I'm going to spend all that money, but I do like the idea.
I absolutely
It's
love
great.
it. Absolutely love it. Seriously, this is what
The one
this
little
is what
drawback.
I feel.
It's not
I'm getting
on
a
the
feedback
internet either. It just generates the sound on its own with a battery. It's not on the internet. It doesn't need to be hooked up. So you're not being tracked either. So that's
I'm gonna get one of those. That's so
But
cool.
I wouldn't leave it on all the time. I know my daughter had an Apple Watch that she would use for all that sort of just monitoring things. She got a horrible rash, and it took a long time to heal it after she stopped. But I would be careful not to wear something like that all the time. Just and the thing that cured me did it in 23 minutes. So you don't need to wear it all the time.
Oh, that's awesome.
There's a difference, Carol, because there was a different frequency rate. These are audible frequencies, and I think that the frequencies that the $4,000 machines that you're talking about, they operate on a different level.
These aren't all audible. I don't think they're all audible because there's the free. I think it can do unaudible too. So there's ultra. There's the sound can be above audible and below audible, and light can be too. So I think the frequencies are just frequencies, and you can dial them up by the number as to which ones go. Like the Royal Rife frequency.
That's what I was just going to say. The Royal Rife.
Yeah, he and the work that came after him after he died, he really worked out which frequencies address which issues. And it's a bigger range than just audible. You don't, and I think this is too, because these are just electronically generated. So you can.
Oh, so this is reminding me. I was on a Twitter space the other night. It was like maybe 3 a.m. and a lady comes on, and she is a doctor, and they've been watching a few things. So I'm gonna hold it up to the mic so you can hear, because I can't share the link because it's a screen recording. There's 4 really short ones, but it's about uranium and what they're finding. So I'm going to share those with you, so you can kind of hear kind of what the science is going on. And I still have a lot more to clip, but this is what I've gotten so far. Here they go.
John Baxter is another person recently that makes a bunch of these type of machines. I hadn't seen the watch yet, though.
Well, I'll have to wait till I can figure out what's going on. But yeah, as soon as I have it, you guys go ahead and talk.
Well, there's another guy, Greg, who we met when we were in Michigan and Ohio. I think he's around Cleveland. He knows Harry really well, and he works with a guy that has developed a machine. I forget what it's called, but it's similar to this as well. So they're out there, and he's got a lot of stories of people that have reversed really stage 4 cancers and all kinds of stuff. So it's powerful.
It's important, and we need, seeing how obviously the powers that want to be try to block lines of simple health, and that's why we open up those lines, we network, and just like any pilot, double checking, sending the signals, making sure people got it.
What's that?
This looks like the fact checkers thing. There's no reliable evidence.
Oh, is it? Yeah, of course. Because why do you think? Exactly what I was just saying. It's like, why for the past 100 years people have been suffering when this technology was developed is the same reason that BS fact check goes like that. Because
okay, here, I think I got it. Let's see, and we will try this out. Here we go.
So radiation pneumonia is not talked about very much because it's predominantly seen in cancer survivors that went through chemo and radiation. It was on my radar because of the state I live in. Above ground testing, Area 51, we deal with all kinds of stuff being put in our water, so it's not out of place. One thing that flagged me that made me look at, is there a possibility that this stuff was in the water, was there was an article about grizzly bears and eagles. And eagles were dropping dead out of the sky, and grizzly bears were losing their eyesight. This is the same stuff that happened at when Chernobyl spilled. Animals were losing their eyesight, and birds were dropping dead out of the sky due to the radiation exposure. That was happening here in the States. Grizzly bears and eagles predominantly hunt waterways, so it was kind of one of the leads that we had. Another lead that we had that we thought COVID might include possible radiation exposure was a medication called Tagamet 200. It's a heart medication. They tried to remove it off the market in the 2020. I managed to grab some. It's the only heartburn medication that was curing COVID in a few days. It's also the only heartburn medication that has povidone, and povidone is a water-soluble iodine.
And then here's another one.
Lastly, going back to radiation pneumonia, my brother survived 2 bouts of cancer. Both times he had to get chemo and radiation. He had leukemia. He's alive and he's healthy now, and he smokes. His doctors keep telling him, you're going to get cancer from smoking cigarettes, you're going to deal with cancer again. But he's also had oncologists that check in with him periodically that say, this is going to prevent radiation pneumonia. That was another big red flag for me, because we were watching people with COVID not have issues with pneumonia that smoked. If you were a smoker, you weren't being put on a vent. I actually spoke to a medical expert 2 years ago, and he was walking into a meeting that they were literally discussing why people who smoke cigarettes were not being put on vents. They couldn't figure it out. So that's one other kick to the radiation pneumonia. Radiation pneumonia predominantly affects people that are 65 and older.
And here's another one.
Also, radiation pneumonia, uranium exposure, and radiation exposure, especially through radioactive heavy metals. One of the symptoms, if you get a toxic response to it, is hair loss, loss of smell, loss of taste. So there is a huge honey hole from the medical side to look at. We also went as far as looking at possibilities of detoxing, and it's pretty amazing what we found. We have been applying this stuff to ourselves for 6 months or more, and I have never felt healthier. Like, I don't get sick anymore, and it's very simple, very affordable, very knowledge-filled, easy things that we can do. And when you start figuring out why they deplete this mineral and why they deplete this mineral and what cancer that causes, it is a game changer. So I just want to thank you guys for continuing.
And then another one.
I'm just curious.
Why wouldn't they let us know what's in the vax? Like, what are they putting in the vax? And then I'm going to give you a little bit of a head start on this too. We have another Spaces coming up. But if you type in uranium, you Google uranium, the future of medicine, you'll see what they're doing.
Okay.
These infusions, yeah, there's infusions coming.
Can you DM me the link for that also?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I haven't gone through the other ones, but really quick, there was a part that I had to cut off. Uranium exposure causes myocarditis and fatty liver disease. People who aren't alcoholics and don't drink alcohol, which is the same thing that showed up during COVID. So what they're doing is comparing the symptoms and what's going on, and then they're comparing the uranium mines and some of the mining for metals, and then the wind altitude. Because even people that get exposed by the wind blowing and that inhales a little would have, symptoms of flu, symptoms of pneumonia, symptoms of this or that. So if they knew there was an accident, say there was a small earthquake, right? Because they were through a craton that hit California at a 4, and then it went over to Nevada at a 2.5. Whatever is dislodged, if it's near a mine, you get those particles or whatever. So they're looking into that and looking into how things would spread that way. Now, they're not saying it is all of COVID. They're saying there's so many similarities, but the
Mhm.
water soluble iodine is what they saw. And you remember when they were like, oh, heartburn medicine, and everyone was like, well, that was purposely put out. No, the actual heartburn medicine that was talked about, they pulled off the market immediately. So all the other stuff was the regular heartburn medicine we see. So that one kind that she talked about, they pulled it. She grabbed it before they pulled it all. And every time she used it on somebody, within 2 days, they were healthy as can be. No sign of COVID, no long COVID, no anything, because it literally got rid of the radiation poison, because it has the same active ingredient in that heartburn medication that the water soluble iodine has. So that was the one that was pulled away.
A great source of iodine too. If you have to pay attention a little bit to which kinds of seaweed, but that's a real natural source. But
that lady was full of information, so much information.
Yeah, in 2020, Amber, I found a paper that compared radiation sickness to all the symptoms of COVID right at the beginning, and it was exactly parallel. So yes, I think this has been going on, and look what's happening in the skies and all the ionized skies.
Wouldn't you think that's why they're looking for ways to shut on and off our cancer reactors rather than fix the problem of all the poisons and toxins and metals, because they need it in order to go to space. They need it in order to have the chips and have the cars and have the this and have the that. And so the only way they can have that
control over us.
That, and for the toys we want to play with.
Yeah.
The ways we want to get on a plane instead of drive in a car that's used and use it till it's done, but get a brand new car and a brand new this and a brand new that. And we're begging for the same toys that cause the waste. And then that doesn't even count like the wars going back and forth and every country feeling like they have to mine what they need to have a supply because there's a power struggle and control, right? And then every country thinks their country is being the bad guy, the citizens in it. But then some people are patriotic and saying, no, we don't do anything wrong. When actively all countries are being jackasses right now. Let's just be frankly honest. They're all playing a game and they're all wanting to pick a side and tug a war. And with that, like if the case is it's our waste, it's our mining, it's all these things that then get into us. And instead of them saying we can't do this, which I understand why they wouldn't, but they're looking for ways to turn our triggers on and off so that those very things don't cause us harm. It's a backwards way of doing it. But if you've got people begging for these items and materials and, they need to get from one side of the United States to go visit their grandmother or their mom on the other side, they're not going to went and get in a car and drive there. Our train services don't even really exist. They can't really get on a train and get there. And a boat would take you all the way around to get there. So the best way is to fly. Like these are things that we're all responsible for. What do we say never mind to? What do we say okay? And how do we make these things safer? Because you've got big money, you've got interest, you've got all this. And so it looks like the only thing they know how to do is just fix our body as to how we receive these toxins. And it just doesn't seem good enough because too many people are going to suffer and die and they may not even still get it.
I don't think they're trying to fix it. I think all of the stuff that's coming out that is supposed to fix it isn't. It's a diversion. That there's. I think there really is somewhere a lot of people that want to have fewer people here.
But if you look at scientists, they're saying they want to learn how to turn the trigger off of cancer, how to keep it from triggering.
No, they're triggering it on.
Yeah. But I mean, the people pushing back.
Yeah.
And I would say
the trigger.
But I would say that's the point. But
what they're turning off is our ability, our natural ability to go after it.
Yes, I would say
it used to cause cancer until they made it stronger,
right?
And
but
be able to attack the P53.
What I'm trying to say, Carol, is it looks like that's why there's a split in the science community. There's the science community that wants to learn how to address our body issues from the things in our environment, and the people who are like, no, we want these issues because we need population control. And that seems to be the fight within that place, but nobody's talking about they are, but their main source is how do we turn off what they're turning on. So that seems to be the battle between the scientists that we see.
There's a squirrely thing about what population control means.
Yes.
We think it means less people, But there's another meaning that they're going for, which is controlling the population in terms of controlling their behavior, their thoughts, all sorts of stuff. So that's the track, trace, target, terminate. That all those things doesn't mean you're
well, if you
just
listen,
knocking people out.
if you listen to some of those, like George has one on this space, Scott, and he does the Allison thing. If you listen to him really closely, what he's saying is they're looking to turn off triggers and things that are triggered by what's going on. But they know why it's triggered because the things in the environment, the metals, the toxins, the vaccines, the this, the that. And so there are those scientists that are looking for not changing the elements that are toxic to us, but how to change our body in receiving those toxins in a way in which we can still live. And that's what I'm looking at. Like people who are part of the system, they know there's no way to stop that waste product, mining, invention, keep on going system because it's too big to battle. So they're looking to fix us in how we don't get affected or how we can stave off these things.
There's another issue too, because it isn't too big to battle. The solutions have been there. They're there, and we have not been taught how to think like that. And so, like the kinds of there's energy solutions that don't have radiation that actually, as a waste product, is electricity. So there's ways to transmute.
And that's the watch, stuff. Like to get everything in sync. Yeah.
There's other ways of thinking about it that are not conventional, and we haven't been taught how to think like that. But we can learn, and we are learning. So we can solve those problems, I think.
Well, I feel like you guys together are describing holistic medicine versus allopathic medicine, because the holistic is, symbiotic. We all work together. The allopathic is just like you're saying. Let's put a Band-Aid on this. Let's change the response.
Let's make money from it.
Make money. Play mad scientist. But you're right, Carol. And when it comes to the fact that there is a very large list of inventors with mysterious deaths.
Oh, okay. Absolutely.
A lot of mysterious deaths. So how many inventions is that are non-toxic things that we could be using? So that right there just proves that it's like, no, we want money and unhealthiness and some kind of BS they're trying to spread.
Absolutely. That's my point. Is like, if you let's just take Gates. He's generic because everyone knows him, and there's other players that nobody talks about. Let's take him. He is involved in Bayer, Monsanto, farmland, GMOs affecting the mosquitoes. But then he wants to sell the vaccine for Zika and for these things after maneuvering, and then says this is the only way we can grow enough food for everybody, and then pushes and lobbies for immigrants to come over, because then they could be the ones that are farming with very little pay. With no recourse for any any abuse that will go on, and then be able to scientifically watch how the bees are affected, the mosquitoes, then practice science on them. So everything is 15 layers deep, are all connected to the same entity, where they're able to not only medically test, but on animals, people, and then food. And then they can say they're helping by, here, we're feeding you. And then they can give you lower prices by saying this is the only way you're going to be able to afford it, while they have rentals and then universal basic income to say, see how we're helping you. But it just gives them a way to try to evolve human beings into just being recipients of whatever, and whoever survives is survival of the fittest, or has the fittest body, not knowing what the conclusion is, but thinking that they'll be able to adjust at any point because they have a lack of faith, they have a lack of understanding of the creator. And it seems like they have their hands dipped in everything, and that's the issue. If you're a scientist and you see what's coming down the line, the only thing you can do to help is to adjust the person's body in receiving all this crap that they're doing to us, because you can't stop the beast, right? And so that's what I see playing out in the science world. But then they can't what they're doing because they'll be gotten rid of, because then that ruins the whole testing of making people survival of the fittest and see what they can and can't handle and what they can and can't deal with. Got someone helping their body to adjust to it. That's not an actual test. That Bill Gates and his crew, they're not able to fulfill that test. They need to see it all the way through. And if somebody's finding a way where our body adjusts to it, their whole thing of making our body just, you know how when you're allergic to peanuts, you take a little bit, then all of a sudden you're not allergic anymore. It's kind of like, here's a little toxin, here's some more toxin. And the ones who can withstand all of that, they have the longevity. They move forward while they're being tested. And anybody who comes, stops that short, has your body adjust to it, cleans your body out of it. Now you've just ruined their test sample. Now, and so I think that's the fight that people want to allow for that control group, want to teach people how to be safe with their body and keep it at what we are right now, while the others are wanting to see how far they can take our body with everything they introduce. And
I think you're getting to the heart of the problem.
Underground push and pull.
You're getting to the heart of the problem, because one thing I'm seeing a lot at Georgia Tech is all these kids at the gym, you know, they spend an hour and a half at the gym working out, you know, pumping. And then they come out, and there was a group of 5 the other day, and they're all arguing about this one kid's thyroid problem. And they were going round and round in circles with each other, even getting upset, talking about how to fix the problem. And so what they're doing, and Twitter doesn't help, is creating massive confusion about every single topic related to health. And none of these kids ever mentioned 5G or 6G. Paul G in California, I forget his real name, but he's on Mark's show a lot. He has said we have to take 5G and 6G out of the equation.
Yeah, I agree.
That is the lowest hanging fruit. If we do that, first of all, it helps with the thyroid and many other issues. Take 5G out of the equation if you can in your community. There are guidelines. Lena Poo has done a lot of good work on this end. Take that out of the equation, and then we can work on the other things.
I agree. I mean, up until now, we've done fine without 5G or 6G. So we don't need to add it to the mix. And going back to 4G is not the worst thing in the world. We're still connected. We can still, find out all kinds of stuff.
A lot of phones, you can turn it off. You can go on the settings on your phone and turn off 5G on a lot of your phones.
Oh, by the way, there is no wireless, there's no Wi-Fi at Phillips Andover High School or at Phillips Exeter, where most of our secretaries of defense and secretaries of energy come from.
That's very telling right there, John. Yep. The big guys are staying away, but they're giving it to the rest of us. So we just have to say, no, thank you. We want to make sure what we do is not good.
That's awesome, Carol. We should get T-shirts made to say, just say no. Remember Nancy Reagan?
Right.
Just say no to 5G and all this other junk.
What I'm going to try to do is clip the rest of those uranium, because even if uranium's one, but there's a lot of heavy metals. There's a lot of things that are mined and brought into the atmosphere, and the wind carries it. And, our body is going to react. It's going to have an immune response. And depending on what it is, we're going to have a particular immune response. And if there's a leak or if there's an emergency, they may not want to admit it because the fines and the health problems. So they're going to act like, okay, it's a virus or it's this or that. So we have to be prepared. It might be a virus. It may come from a lab, but it might be someone was digging and had an oopsie and everybody has the same symptoms. And then nobody knows how to clean their body out, and they're not worried about that. They're just worried about covering up the oopsie and calling it something else. And then droning on, and then you never get to the conclusion. But then they slowly introduce the medications or allow those things to clear up the people who are left from the oopsie. So we have to make sure that, like the derailment in Ohio, they're still dealing with it. People are still sick. Nobody's talking about it. But you know what? They're not talking about it. We've got crazy stuff on the news, but they're holding hearings about it in DC right now. They're finding out Norfolk Southern, why they decided to burn it, how that happened. That all is being testimony right now. People are sick. And you know what they did? They built them a park. Why the hell do they need a park? They need a park. They need 1,000 other things. but they built them a park as like, here you go. So these are the kind of things that nobody got the answers. Did anybody go in and tell them how to clean out their body of the toxins they just took in? No. Did they say, oh, here's some bottled water or here's this? Yes. Does anybody have any answers to, was it negligence? Was it purposeful? Was it stupidity? What was it? Right. But then they say, okay, well, COVID happened. People may have stopped going back to work on the railroad. Then people were overworked that were there. Then they didn't go to every call that came in because they weren't getting paid well. Their pensions were getting messed with and they weren't getting a raise and they were working 3 times longer than they did before COVID. And then those things happen, right? And then after that, you have companies that need the rail system to go because that's how we get our goods and services, that if they cut that off, we're screwed again. So they just have to keep moving while they address it, but then they can't really talk about it because it all has to do with COVID, it has to do with shutdowns, it has to do with the loans they got from the government to do what happened that cause and effect, action, reaction, domino effect gets us where we are today. So instead of figuring out this happened, and this happened, and this happened, and it caused this, and then this happened, this, which caused this, and now we've got this, and now we have to address it, this is cleaning out your body. They're not going to do it that way because then it shows who's guilty, and they're too busy doing the point of guilt and the battle of the experts game. And then we never get anywhere.
Did you guys hear? I don't think I'm going to explain it really well or precisely, but I had seen something where the people in that town or community, before the derailment, they had some kind of like health project where people could sign up to get like tracked for their health. And it's like pretty much the tracker that we're all trying to avoid, I guess. I remember it was something maybe like
Health tracker.
Orange, health tracker, like an orange something or whatever. And so I forget the person's name who did it, but it was just like, okay, so they went in and prepared the people that they were going to poison and then track.
Eddie Ads did a special on that, and he showed that one of the guys he interviewed, I think his name was Jim. He said we have like 2 weeks. 2 weeks before the incident, they got everybody to sign up. I mean, these kiosks were on every street corner. Sign up now, because we care about, the government cares about you. That's why.
Was that the only place that was doing it?
No, they did it a few others, but it was only in Northeast Ohio.
Right. Here's my question, though. In the other places, was there any kind of environmental issue or anything that happened in those places like that happened in Ohio, but were categorized under something different?
Well, there have been. The excuse was that there was an uptick in radon, there was an uptick in this, there was an uptick in that.
No. You misunderstood my question. So in Ohio, where they laid this out, the tracker, and you said they did it in other cities. Well, of course, they're not going to do it and then in every city have a train derailment. But once they did it, a couple weeks later, a month later, did anything extreme or anything happen in those cities, whether it was like, oh, we have a chickenpox or we have this outbreak, whatever? Was there anything that followed any of the cities that set up the health tracker other than Ohio? Because then it would look like, okay, this was set up and in these particular cities, this happened, this happened, this happened, and this happened, but they were all different. And you wouldn't think to correlate them because you would just think, oh, well, since it was a train derailment in Ohio, then that's what they would do everywhere else. No, they might do a truck turning over with something toxic. They might do a foodborne illness in some, or an animal-borne illness in food, right? They, depending on like, where's the health trackers? And then were there any news stories within a month or two of setting up the health tracker where something happened? And then that looks like it. There's a little bit of more of a correlation. That's what I was asking.
And they could even just set a bunch of them out and then be like, oh, we're going to be able to play the derailment down in Ohio or whatever like spot they're able to pull off, you know?
Yeah, it's hard to predict. I think the biggest problem we're dealing with is one of the worst things in the world is deceit, is lies. Because once you lie, it resets the playing field to the point where no matter what they say, you're wondering, was this a setup? Are they hiding something? Are they lying by omission? And to set the precedence of dishonesty for our health because you can't handle the truth, whatever it is, then it creates the conspiracy stuff. It creates the distrust. It creates the negative naysaying from the people. It creates the reactions and the hyperbolic rhetoric. And then that creates the censorship. So it's all based on, we were lied to, right? And we've been lied to many times in history. And because they were so comfortable with doing it, we have such a lack of trust that that's what it looks like today. And they're annoyed that we don't trust them, but yet they don't, like, common sense tells you if we lie to the public and they find out we lied, whether it has to do with killing a president and like hiding that, not releasing paperwork, has to do with particular people or particular wars. Once people find out that you're capable of staring them right in the face and getting them to cheer for something that later they know is a mistake because it was deceit, you've lost the people, right? And they're annoyed because they lost the people because they thought it was in our best interest to lie to us when it was the worst thing to possibly do. I mean, there's a way to tell the truth, right, without being stupid, without causing ridiculous anarchy. But to lie causes a whole other set of problems. And every time deceit is entered in, it's a crap show. And I mean, they can't be a victim. Like all the criticism they're getting, like, sorry, that's what comes with the territory of lying. Maybe you shouldn't lie. Like that, you know, why don't we trust the Congress? Is it because we just don't like the way they look, or they have bad breath, or like they walk funky, or we just don't like them when they reach that age? Or is it because they're freaking liars? It's because they lie. That's the problem. Stop being a damn liar. And maybe people give you respect. That is like the core foundation of the cracking of the system when it starts to be deceitful. And then they complain like they are the biggest babies about how we're supposed to trust. And like even on the Democrat side, when they said before Hillary and Trump ran, they were like, oh, we don't trust these machines. We don't trust the machines. And then he's not our president. He's not our president. And then it happens. And we're like, we don't trust the machines. Well, they allowed all of that to perpetrate. And now that was mad because other people said the same thing. Now they're starting to say again, they don't trust the machine. After the last 4 years, 3 years saying there's nothing wrong with them. They're doing it again. And it's all based on lies on a constant basis. Everybody lying, finagling, twisting, playing games. And what do they think is going to happen? So they're not victims. They're jackasses.
Well, I think they didn't realize that how many people would point that out, you know, and now it's so clear that they lied on purpose to be deceitful in order to herd us somewhere that we don't want to go. And that's been, you know, the intent all along, but we couldn't see it before because it wasn't quite so dire. But now it's dire. It's millions of people. It's billions of people. And so the truth, as it's leaking out slowly and faster is going to help make
right.
that shift.
Don't you think it's a shame? Like, it's one thing if they felt like they had to lie, right? But it's a whole other thing when people are looking for the truth and they find the truth and then they try to punish you for finding out the truth. Then that's a whole, like that takes it to a whole new level. Now you're not only lying, you're evil. You're an evil entity of crappy people. Because it's one thing to say, well, we couldn't tell you the truth because you couldn't handle it. But then people dig in because they can handle it. They find it and they're punished, censored, put away, or called crazy, all because apparently they could handle it. They found it. They presented it. You know, it'd be one thing if they felt like they had to lie. And then when people found the truth, they allowed it to come out and they allowed it to organically take its shape because people could handle it. Because then, okay, maybe they didn't want to say particular things because we might act like running out of a theater, but someone says something and everyone screams and freaks out and loses their mind. Okay, possibly. But when you have those same people who had to deal with the initial deceit, dig in and find what actually happened, if you don't punish them for it and you allow that truth to come out, you know what? I'll give you that. You didn't know how people could handle it. That's the best way you could do it. But a lot of times they're punishing people who find the truth, which that's evil. That they cannot, this was for your own safety. No, it's for your safety. It was for your deceit, had nothing to do with people because you don't care, you're self-centered, and you use this as like pawns and things to throw away. And so basically we'll know their true motives. When the truth comes out, how will they react? Will they be accepting and happy that people could handle it and that we dug for it and that we're strong citizens and they're proud of us because we stood up in the face of adversity and we began to be strong and we protected our country and our neighbors and we did what we're supposed to? Or are they going to punish us? And that will reveal whether we're dealing with evil or good, period. So it's on them. It's in their court. Checkmate. What you got for me?
Yeah, I
what
think
you going to show me?
It's already been revealed. We can see it's intentional, and they're herding us into a slaughter pen where we don't want to be. That's pretty clear. So
yeah, but they have a chance to allow. But Carol, they have a chance to allow us to bring the truth out, and they can sit down and allow it to happen. They've got to move. It's their move, but we're in checkmate, and whatever they choose determines what they show the whole universe, what they show every living thing, amoeba to everything, who they really are. Because if you punish people for finding the truth after mocking them and telling them that we need you to step up and you're going to have to be the one to save the country and you need to understand the truth, and people dig for it, and then they react and they lie more and they punish people for it, then they were always evil. It is evil, and we still win because they revealed themselves. The whole thing about evil is people don't believe it exists, and then they slip through the cracks. So it's their move, and no matter what, it's checkmate for us, because they're either going to allow the truth to come out and they're going to allow us to grow as they mocked us and told us we needed to do because we weren't pulling our weight, or they're going to try to punish us. Either way, they just showed their ass to the universe. So it's their choice.
And the ones that talk out of both sides of their mouth, you know the devil's a liar. And when people are housing demons, it's just like you said, we see it, and we're going into this thing like the Watch, where we're going to have healing potential that has been around, that we're going to be able to use. We're going to be able to use vibrations, and those that have done us wrong in the way you're describing, there's just, their chances are over. Okay. Yeah, no quarter. This is no quarter.
Our senses are so important, because being a witness means many things, but the most important is when you have such crises that we see today, how they respond to what people stepped up to have to do after they told us, you know, they were going to do what's necessary and protect the people and get to the bottom of it. And, you know, we need to trust them. Once they make that choice not to do it and we step up, they just made millions and millions and millions and millions of witnesses all over the world that see that they never intended us for know the truth, or that they wanted us to. And so they allow it to come out, and they allow that freedom to come back and for the deep healing to happen, right? It's in their court, but they need to understand you can't escape witnesses. Like, it goes down in history forever, because the truth is the truth is the truth is the truth, and you cannot escape it with whatever game you're playing. So we are in checkmate position, because if they allow the truth to come out, great, checkmate. If they don't, great, we witnessed what you're really made of, checkmate. Now we don't have to feel scared, because why should we be scared of evil? It's weak. That's why weak people do evil things, because they're not strong enough or good enough to be good. So they resort to being the lowest common denominator, the most carnal, the most animalistic, the most reptilian. Like, literally, they use that carnal, primordial part of their brain, because they're not mature enough, they're not beautiful enough, they're not kind enough. They just don't have what it takes. And so they scurry like a weasel. So either way, the ball's in their court. Hopefully they choose the right thing and allow truth to come out, and then applaud everyone who fought for truth, period.
Oh,
and we're kicking to the curb the rest.
John, you're on mute.
Oh, a friend of mine in Ohio had to go to court in order to obtain the right to record the county commissioners' meetings, because he's had some suspicious characters there from the New Albany area. And he really wants to record these meetings, because he wants it, he wants it to be on the record. And if everything I say or you or Carol says can go on the record forever and forever, he wants the county commissioners to be on the record. So he had to go to court, and finally, after 5 months, he's been able to get the permission to record these county commissioner meetings. But that's one of the ways that we can protect our young people and our neighbors from what they're trying to do, is record everything.
Yeah, and I'll say it's very important for you. You stand strong when you know that your heart is in the right place and you're looking for truth. You have nothing to fear. And if they want to record your words forever, you want them to, because it reverberates forever and ever. So if you're standing on truth and you speak it, hey, yes, please keep it, record it, play it, because you obviously need it. Okay? So good, bring it. You want to record, as long as people are speaking truth, they're telling what's going on with them, and they're trying to help others. I think that's amazing. Play it till the end of time. Play it till the end of time, because that's the stuff that needs to be played instead of the smut and crap that's out there right now. So yeah, great. Yeah, commissioners need to be recorded, but some of us that speak the truth, I think it's a blessing. Record it. Have it never go away, because people need to remember we are a witness. And so we're either part of the problem or part of the solution. And that's our free will. And we make that choice.
And you guys have heard that truth is like a lion. You just let it out and it will protect itself.
Absolutely.
Right.
I wish I could do a lion roar. I can't.
So
like the one in Wizard of Oz. Go.
Yeah, on the visual, we're looking at every little ref is you poke it and you get a big science paper that's referencing what she's talking about.
Did you
Awesome
in our text, Carol?
I did put it in.
Okay,
the
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, you guys go out and protect those nests. Have a great weekend and happy summer.
Yes, very happy summer.
See you tomorrow, everybody.
4th of July, yes, independence, freedom. Love yous.
Freedom.
Freedom.
Bye.